Well, the U.S. wants war with China, Russia, the Middle East, but can they do that when the military is so painfully out of shape? Look at this study from the CDC. This is a new report about young people's unfitness to serve in the military. It estimates that 1 in 3 young adults is too heavy to serve in the military. That's approximately 1 in 5 children and 2 in 5 adults. They also see that 71% down there on top of the U.S. map. They're saying that 71% of young people in the U.S. would not be able to join the military if they wanted to, because they are either overweight or obese, they have educational deficits, or they have a criminal or drug abuse record. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like we really know how to grow them in the United States.
Fear our military, the toughest.
Right.
No, scratch that. The slowest? Okay, maybe the fattest in the world? Coming for you. We're coming for you, Iran.
Right.
You better watch out.
That's why we have to make such advanced weapons, because we need to depend on those and not running after people.
Right, exactly.
I suppose that's right.
Drones and stuff that we can some guy can sit there with a cheeseburger and eat and just use a joystick and drop bombs on people.
I wouldn't say that even that is dangerous, right? Because foods that cause mental slog or, impair your mental ability are still going to be dangerous for others, obviously, and for us as well. Now, further, this study says that 19% of active duty members had obesity in 2020. That was up from 16% in 2015. So whereas the lore of Steve Rogers, right, this Captain America character that we like to tout because we have the, best soldiers in the world, now it looks like being puny is the least of our problems. At this point, we would accept puny Steve Rogers, right? Because we're having the opposite effect. Right. We're going to look at that image again later. Don't you worry. Now, by current standards,
it's like looking in the mirror.
Steve Rogers is pretty fit. But now look at what it costs U.S. taxpayers because of this high number of obese service members. It says it's about $1.5 billion annually in obesity-related healthcare costs that the Department of Defense has to spend for current and former service members and families, as well as costs to replace unfit personnel. It says lost work days due to overweight and obesity or related causes is about 658,000 per year, costing about $103 million per year. They're saying like, hey, we got to make a difference. We got to get these numbers up. This is a problem. Now, we have talked about before how enrollment is down. That's something we've been warned about. This is the Wall Street Journal earlier this year, warning us that the Army says it will be 15,000 recruits short of targets. The Navy is 10,000 recruits short of their targets. Air Force, 3,000 recruits. The Marine Corps says they will actually meet recruitment target, but still admit that it was a struggle to do so. Now, according to Pentagon data, 9% of young people said that's of the U.S. population, only 9% of young people say they would consider a military service. That's down from 13%. So by my calculations, if only 9% of young people consider enlisting, but 71% of that population is ineligible because of obesity, criminal records, or education deficits, then that leaves us with about 2.6%. Right? I realize I'm generalizing from this population. You can check my math. It's 29% of 9% because 71% is ineligible. You can check it later. But by my calculations, 2.6% eligible and willing population. That's embarrassing and also not funny. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of shocked that none of the psycho drugs are listed as ineligible, like the psychotropic drugs or anything. It's like, oh, those are all fine. You can be on those.
Right.
Well, it says drug abuse. What is it? How does it put it here?
So I guess
criminal or drug abuse record. But it's interesting what we consider drug abuse, because we saw recently that the military has changed its standards on transgender service members to allow certain untested drug experiments on soldiers if they want to change their gender. So I guess we're just picking and choosing. You know, you can have biopharmaceutical profitable drugs. You cannot have off-label drugs. Let's take a look at this. This is what we found earlier this year. This was from a memo that was leaked or I don't know if it was leaked. It came out in February. It includes new guidelines for transgender service members, including provisions to skip deployments, receive indefinite waivers for grooming, physical fitness, and drug testing. It says that the military may or may not offer this type of gender dysphoria care. It talked about, speech voice therapy, cross-sex hormones, laser hair removals, voice feminization surgery, facial contouring, body contouring, chest breast surgery, known as like upper surgery, that means cutting off boobs, genital reassignment or lower surgery, that means cutting off balls and penises. It says it should not be assumed that they get the full range of these, but they can get at least some of them. This is basically your clinique counter of transgender care that the military will pay for. So when you think about this, that they're actively trying to offer, and the obesity problem put together, you'd think, maybe we're busy. Maybe we don't need to spend our time cutting off penises. I don't know. Is this a priority? Now, this document,
I would argue you could probably run better.
I don't think so. Because when you cut off a penis or boobs, you are highly likely to get an infection there. I agree. You know, without boobs, it might be easier to run. But at the same time, there's a lot of problems with top surgery. You get drainage for a really long time. You can get infections there. The document even says that these cross-sex hormones come with potential health risks and undesired side effects. They say it many times. In fact, they say that when you take these cross-sex hormones, here's some things that might happen. Look at these two Roman numerals. It says you can expect body fat redistribution and decrease of muscle and onset of breast growth. So again, let's just look at, the lore of what we like to think of our strong military as Captain America. We should want to go from left to right, but instead we're going from right to left. So just to sum it up, our military is getting fatter than ever. We're going to make them more fat with cross-sex hormones. We accept that just fine. And we're going to weaker with less muscle as well. And yet still we have record low levels of enlistment. So maybe we shouldn't wage all these wars because we need a sick day. We need many sick days. We need sick years before we are ready to go into battle. Not to mention the fact that the American population, by and large, doesn't want any more. So let me know what you think of this in the chat.
And any more chances?
Are they going to cover?
Go ahead.
Like once somebody transitions to the other sex, they go fight a war. They're like, yeah, I didn't like fighting that as a man. I'd like to go back to a woman. Okay, here's your next year, and then 2 years of year 4 are in the hospital.
Well, most of the time, detransitioning is not covered, but I guess, if you have all the way transitioned to a different gender, you could say, I'm transitioning again. You could just go back and forth and just call it gender transition, and that's fine. But they will never call it detransitioning because they cannot admit that happens.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.